So here's my very good friend Beth.
Hi,
And
Susanne.
hi, so good to
Hi.
have you back. And in a minute, I'm going to talk about some of, you know, what you do in life and why it is that I thought that this would be a good conversation for us to have. And the main point that we have really been touching on, just talking off camera a bit, which has been said before by others, and it's not unknown to everyone, of course, is that you can't be alive right now and be a human being and not have experienced trauma. It just does not exist. It's not possible. And so our conversation, we're going to be interfacing the awakening piece, the awakening piece, and how much perhaps awakening helps dissolve or even transform, the trauma piece, and then how much it also can't, where that ends up, you know ending up. And we're going to share some personal examples from our own life. And yeah, it's a good topic. It's a complex topic, and a necessary one, because right now our human body, and our collective human body, and what we open up to, even with awakening into oneness, is that our whole system collectively is traumatized by what we're doing here, and also throughout time. You said something interesting just a bit ago. You said there's never been a time where this kind of work, or talking about it, or just the understanding about trauma would not be supportive. I mean, and
Hmm.
it's like, oh yeah, from caveman era, cavewoman era, all the way to present day, throughout time, human beings, our ancestors,
Yeah.
our our generational ancestors, these
Yes.
wounds have existed. Pain and suffering has been here, and to different degrees. And some lives are easier and some lives are harder, as we know. But also, when one wakes up, we wake up to the
Hmm.
collective pain body. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I want to
Hmm.
introduce you, Beth Miller, a 30 going on 35 years of being a psychologist, and your interest being one of interfacing divinity with humanity.
Yeah.
And this is the interest that you do with people you work with, and in your own being yourself, knowing you as I do. So here we are. Let's see. Do you have a place that you'd like to start with, something that I just brought up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me jump into that and then we can broaden it. This whole place, well, first of all, the fact that we're here to talk about healing, to talk about awakening, to talk about trauma, it's very close to my heart. It's very close to my personal experience. It's very close to the work I do. And when you're saying about there's never been a time that this has not been alive and needed, I think about the very fact that we come to this planet and there's no way around the belief that we are separate. There's no way around it. Unless somebody comes in fully awake, certainly possible. For the majority of us, we come in to a conditioned, I don't know what to call it, like conditioning. We come into conditioning. And the very fact that we do believe that we are separate and disconnected is profoundly traumatizing. Profoundly.
That's the primary wound, wouldn't you say?
I think it's not only primary, I think it actually, excuse my expression, trumps everything. And I say that from a very deeply personal place because I have had an enormous amount of trauma in my life that has taken years of healing. And anyone who knows my life would say that it's the violations that were the most awful. And actually, I'd say no, it was the disconnect that is the most awful. It's the most awful because it is so against our nature. And what it seems to be doing from the very beginning of time is allowing us to treat each other horribly, just
Yeah.
horribly.
Yeah.
You and I both know from a state of an open, wide open, loving heart, you don't treat somebody else badly. You don't treat
No.
nature badly. You don't treat the animal world badly. You
No.
can't. You can't. But if you don't have that, if you're living in a state of, I'm on my own here, and then you add what you just, I think you brought in not only the collective, the ancestral, the generational trauma, it's like no way around it. And so I think one of the reasons it's such a, um, what's the word? Like a beckoning topic, because everyone deep down knows. I know trauma. I just do.
Well, yes to everything you just said. And isn't it just the way that us human beings, how we're wired, that we move away from being uncomfortable and we retract? And then
Yep.
so many people who go on a spiritual journey and a path, are part of, I would say there is probably a large percentage of us out there, who are trying to just plain feel better. Or, I mean, of course, there's always the beckoning of wholeness,
Right.
of truth, of remembering is, I mean, in the background, that's the case anyway. Even if one
Yeah.
is trying to feel better, that's still the real case. But there's this very human thing of just as an animal body, even of just wanting to feel better and just to be able to transcend and nullify and the wound, the what's hurting all, and so we get these messages that bliss and peace and just well-being, which is the background of existence for sure. But then you know we you and I were talking earlier of how some people can confuse numbness and disassociation with with becoming more and more free. And
Mm.
what would you say? I would love to hear from you about in your own experience. Yeah, why not? Right. And then maybe I can share something of mine. But in your own experience, how did you see a part of you that wanted to disassociate, or was occurring without meaning to, of course, and numb? And then the difference between that and true emptiness and true freedom. You know what I mean? There
Do.
is a world of difference. Yeah.
The world difference. Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to talk about that and to piggyback on what you said about, because I can remember, actually, I don't know how conscious this belief was, but I think it was pretty well embedded in me. It's like awakening would take away all of the pain.
Mm.
And the
And did you
irony,
hear that from somewhere, Beth? Do you think you just got those
no,
messages? No?
to me, when I would hear about awakening and I would hear about well-being, I translated the well-being to not being distressed, not being particularly emotional. And it's like, it's ironic because what I'd say now is that is actually very true. Awakening is well-being without a doubt. But
Yeah.
the well-being comes from how are you? Where is presence in the midst of the distress? Well, I think I got the message in two ways. I think I got the message in some deep hope inside myself that I wouldn't have to feel I could stay dissociated. I could
Yeah.
stay numb, or I could walk away from all the knots and impacts of trauma. And then I think
Mhm.
the other place I got the message is that when I entered into the world of spirituality, I think it was a great emphasis on transcendence, great emphasis. And I don't know what reason that didn't stick with me very long, but it certainly gave me the impression that I would not have to feel all this.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Freedom. You would
complete,
one associates the freedom with just being free of pain. I mean, it's just a normal kind of
right?
thought. When did you have a period of time where you were in a nice bubble of being free of pain?
I did. I
Yes.
did.
Oh, yeah.
I did. And you know what? At the time I was so crushed by this, but I will tell you, I'm so grateful now. Some small voice inside said to me, this is not the ending.
Uh-huh.
This is, this is no place to rest. And I didn't have the word embodiment at the time, but I knew my body had not, I knew that my body had not quite caught up with this revelation and this realization.
Were you already a psychologist?
Yes,
Yeah. That could have played a part of it. Is that
could have.
you were working within the human experience so much
Right.
and had probably worked a lot on your own,
Very much.
the wounds and traumas that you experienced as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, growing up. Yeah, well, but you know, that's something that also we were sort of touching on earlier, you and I, is that like what is some of the benefits, of like from life's point of view?
Mm,
Is really anything completely by accident? That mystery is beyond my understanding. I'm fine with not knowing.
mhm.
But but my own experience, and I'll share something of mine, is that you know when my brother died, and he was
Yeah.
34 and I was 35, um so it was some years ago. um the the trauma, it created such a cataclysmic kind of reaction, like a bomb, went off in my
Mm,
life, and all the shock waves of that. It led to, actually, it did open me up to a very deep and profound
mm.
emptiness, right?
Wow.
And it could have been just as equally, it led to disassociation. It could have led to numbness. And I'm not saying that part of this piece of the direct just the naked experience of losing someone so much, to such a degree that you love so profoundly, that it's possible that life in its gentleness, which could be seen as a traumatic response, puts part of it aside to be able to deal with later, when my system was able to integrate it in bits and pieces. Because I kind of remember like little like sort of these kind of downloads, or awarenesses of like, like, oh, he's really gone. Like, oh, like these kind of like in stages over the years of the impact of this big thing that was so,
Mm,
dramatic. But at the same time, because I had been a spiritual seeker for so many years prior, it also cleansed a lot of beliefs about how I would be saved or protected from something so ginormous. And
right.
it opened me up in compassion. We were talking about compassion. um what 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 if life had any reason to create these challenges in our lives and so on? Of course, when it's too much and takes you down, it's too much and takes you down. Like when PTSD is too much, for instance. And we have such compassion for all
Mm,
those who it's too much. It's just too
mm,
much. But if it's not too much, or over time there's some opening to it, what tends to happen is that one is so like on one's knees, gets so on one's knees and humbled of like, I've said this before, like face planted in the dirt, and you're just like, you are no different from other people in this regard.
right.
Trauma also unites us. Trauma is something we share, and I think it opens one's heart. It did me. Oh my God, I used to cry tears for
Mm,
the pain of others and suffering because I was so close to it at that point.
yep.
Is that something that you relate to? And also in your work, you work with people, you probably see it over time. Have you seen compassion be one of the responses and results? I mean,
Yeah.
when it's, yeah,
Yeah. I think very, very much. I think because here's the first of all, start with the mystery. The mystery is how come some of us will be with trauma in an open way and some of us cannot. And there's
yeah,
no judgment on it, but that is just, and it might take longer for some, it might take shorter for others. But when I work with people and there's a context of this is love moving through. This is not a punishment. Whatever the trauma is, like losing your brother, it was not a punishment. Loss is part of our lives. There's not a person that doesn't have loss. So loss is not
yeah,
is a part of our lives, and it's not a punishment. It feels punishing. It feels like a kick in the stomach. And to the degree to which there is a loving, a perspective and a presence of what's this really all about, is the degree to which we will be open, not only to our own heartbreaking, but to anybody's heartbreaking. And I do find working with people that one of the things it's sweet, it's really, really sweet, is that when people are willing, any one of us are willing to face the pain of, let's say, losing your brother or any trauma whatsoever, the willingness to face that in ourselves, something opens rather than contracts.
yeah. And
And
it could be a mix, right? Well, something opens and then some parts get left behind in contraction and need to be integrated later.
for later, but in that
Yeah,
moment
in the moment.
when something opens,
Yeah.
if one of my jobs is to make notice of that, because you don't want to miss that something just went like this.
Uh,
And that kind of experience is memorable because the whole body feels, ah, rather
yeah, some
than,
kind of openness. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
So
so it's
that would be the gift, the kind of gift in the midst of it, maybe? I
the
don't know.
gift in the midst of it. And also to me, it's where how compassion and love shows up,
Uh-huh.
because now there's space.
Yeah, there's
And
space.
what comes rushing in when there's space is love and compassion and empathy.
And
Naturally,
self-compassion, right? First.
has to be to my,
Yeah.
in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, because as within, so without. Yeah.
yeah,
So coming back to, because I don't know if we really answered that inquiry that I opened us into about disassociation versus
yeah.
emptiness
I went,
and numb versus being truly free.
yeah.
Um, so wounds and trauma, they naturally often create a numbness. I mean, I felt it, a lot
Yes.
of numbness. I mean, that's part
Yeah.
of what keeps one feeling like one is in the here and now, is the trauma is inhibiting and veiling,
Yeah.
right? The here and
Right.
now, which totally relates to the spiritual journey, is being present to the here
Yeah.
and now. And trauma is just sort of like this frozen part that just kind of freezes and just, every here and now includes this frozen part, right?
Right.
So I would say that frozen part, the numbness, it's it can lead to dissociation, wouldn't you say?
Um,
Or
I
how
will
would
tell
you
you,
integrate this? Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you, first of all, so I tell you, as a psychologist, one of the leading theories is that dissociation happens. It's not something we choose. It is a protection that is brilliant and happens so that we can survive. And I do think that there's something about numbness and dissociation which is so intelligent,
Yeah.
oddly so,
Yeah.
because we're coming up through childhood, young adulthood, or however long it takes for us to start to really, really heal. We're coming up in the midst of um, something that needs to be protected from. So there's dissociation, there's numbness. It's very, very, to me, it is how the intelligence is moving. It's
Yeah.
keeping, it's, it's how, it's the intelligence of survival.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying. I could even feel it. Could you feel it too at certain points? Like even in my teenage years and 20s, before I started really early 20s, started getting to work on myself, I could feel the edges of the numbness, and I could feel when it was creeping in versus sort of a more free, authentic movement of relating. I could feel the edges of the numbness and what didn't want to be talked about. Like, nah, that's that's not where we're going. And it does seem intelligent, like you say. It's very intelligent because there's not the the skills and the capacity at that stage to unearth it and circumambulate it and include it into this here and now, right? It's not time. It's not, one is not ready.
Right.
The problem is, right, Beth, when it becomes to where the whole screen, not just part of our mansion is very big, the mansion of the self. But when
Mm,
a lot of the rooms in the mansion are frozen and just
yeah.
full of the protection of dissociation and numbness, that becomes a problem because then it's harder to find the glimmer of what's going to help one is evolve out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
think
mean,
that's
for
very,
you in your case, awakening, it helps support that, right? That I mean, and you know, what was your experience with awakening and then after all those years of working on the psychological self,
mhm.
in a
Yeah.
mostly probably, what changed for you after awakening in regards to the traumas that you contained?
Yeah. Let me first say this in response to what you just said. You and I had very different experiences because I was born with trauma. I did not have, it was not edges of numbness or edges of dissociation. It was the full picture. And even saying that, I had a sense of God from a very, very young age. So I had the edges of freedom in the midst of a full dissociation.
So it's kind of like when an eclipse of the sun, like
Completely.
it was just the edges of the sun were still there. Oh, bless your heart.
Truly. And I'm grateful. I mean, it had my attention my entire childhood. And so when I could feel myself getting closer and closer to that profound surrender,
Yeah.
It was terrifying because in my system, the I assumed the surrender would put me deeper into dissociation, non-existence.
So you're talking about during awakening, after years of therapy, that awakening called upon you to have, it was bringing you to surrender, surrender to not resist what was there, what lives here, right? On that
Completely,
level.
completely,
Okay, continue.
completely.
Yeah.
So that level of surrender, and I knew instinctively that I was talking about nothing ever being the same again. And to my limited comprehension of all I'd ever experienced, nothing ever being the same again meant non-existence. So,
Oh, how come? Yeah, so I've heard this before, Beth. I'm not going to veer off too much, but I've heard this before, and it's a good question to ask at this moment. Is that why is it that some people or a lot of people who have had extreme trauma in their lives see awakening at this crucial place? For you, it was surrender. Other people, it might be a different moment as annihilation. Why is that happens? Because that wasn't my experience, okay, at all.
right,
So why is
right.
it with having had such a life of trauma, right, in the background? Why is
Hmm.
that moment seen in that way? Explain to us.
I think because again, to be living in a dissociated state, I don't think we can underestimate what that's like. Numb and dissociation sound like they're words, but it's a chronic state of being removed from yourself, being removed from life, being
Yeah.
removed from the present moment, being removed.
Yeah. 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 Makes sense.
So when you're talking about in a spiritual world, we have this, it's the same, it sounds like to, it sounds like emptiness and not having any, the truth of the matter is I'm not in charge. That's the truth. You're not in charge. I'm not in charge. That's the truth.
Uh, so we're getting down to surrender, control, surrender the doer. And that's annihilation because that's what's kept you safe is
Exactly.
having the some sense of it's unconscious. It's the will force. It's the will force. Like at least there's something I am in charge of here because so much has been taken away.
Yeah. I mean, I'm alive in dissociated, in dissociation, or I'm alive in numbness.
Right. And but okay. Yeah. All right. Where I was going with that is that annihilation
Hmm.
is the fear that control would have because at least there's something, there's numbness, at least there's dissociation. That is at least is a protective mechanism on this situation, you know? And to surrender that
Hmm.
is is
Yeah.
is is a big ask because what lives behind that? I mean, that's just a giant,
Right.
unknown.
Right.
So the sun is coming in as it does at this hour. So what if it's okay to ask you, you go where you want, but what is it that made you go through that threshold, over the threshold
Hmm. Hmm.
at that point?
Hmm. It was never any question, in the depths of my being, there was never any question where my genuine devotion was. It was just a matter of having to do something that was terrifying,
Trust.
an unconscious trust, because it was actually a leap of faith, just a leap of faith,
Leap of faith.
a leap of faith.
Leap of faith. As if there was a chasm, whatever word that is.
To me, there was.
Yeah, right. A leap of faith.
to me.
Annihilation down below.
Exactly.
Oy, oy, oy.
Exactly. And
Sheesh,
I'd
I'm
have
glad
to
it worked
say,
out so well.
well, I think, I go back to in the depths of all of us is this knowing. It's there. It is there. How come
Especially
it's
at that time, especially that juncture. Like you
right?
said, you had so much loyalty and love for this already, for truth.
And I have said this to, I can't tell you how many people who I work with, I have had this conversation with, because I have said I had that conversation with myself. And I said, remember Eckhart Tolle, there being two people, as if there's two people. I had that conversation and I said, I know I'm scared. I know feels like annihilation. I
Yeah,
know everything is screaming at me, don't do this.
yeah,
And I'm here and I can tell you something deeper is much more alive, and I'm going to go and I'm going to see this all the way through.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's beautiful. Um, so yeah, so you went from having just the edges of of trusting in God or knowing there's a God to the complete understanding
Mm.
that it's all God. And for someone, whoever's listening as well, that it's possible to know that one can do that with having had some of the worst of the worst. The
Right.
worst of the worst that, and of course a lot of worsts exist out there
Right.
in this exact moment that's happening to people all over the planet, probably in
Exactly.
our own neighborhood, we don't know. And but that one can, it's, to me, that's the light at the, at the end of this tunnel of being. Like it's like
Mm.
the compassion and
Mm.
understanding and embodied understanding
Mm.
of how everything about duality, how everything really truly is the divine.
Including.
Everything, right, including the trauma, including
Exactly.
that darkness that exists due to separation, as you pointed
Exactly.
out, due to separation,
Right.
that we wouldn't be doing these kind of horrific things to one another and to our to all beings and
Yeah.
earth. Yeah, that's in the end, do you think that don't you I feel like one of the things that has happened for me through all this, through awakening more deeply
Mm.
and opening within the time of unity consciousness to embodiment during that phase, which was 9 years for me.
Mm.
Is it really ever over? I don't know. Is feeling safe in my own skin. And yeah, I'll just pause there. Feeling safe in my skin, in one's
Mm.
skin.
Mm. That's profound.
It is, and that this is home, Beth. This
Truly.
is home. This is
Exactly.
like, the world is doing what it's doing, and Earth is here. The sun is still here, for the time being, where it's here, and the
Yep.
body's here.
Yep.
And it's like, come
Yep.
back to this. Come back to
Yep.
this. Don't live off in imagination, things that
Yep.
are not even here right now.
Yeah.
That's what trauma does too, is like we're not here right now, right? We're not
Can't be.
able to be here. We're not feeling safe in our own skin, to where the time, skin and body is here now. It knows now,
Yeah.
except for what it's containing of the pain body that is still frozen from the past, that doesn't know here now, is not able to
Mm.
be here now, right?
Mhm.
You said something earlier to me about, you wanted to talk about the difference between awakening and the body. Something about, do you remember saying something about trauma, the animal in the body not knowing?
Oh, the biology of the
The
nervous system.
biology. Yeah.
The
Can
bi
you say something about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So for anyone who's listening who doesn't know this, I had long COVID for 3.5 years, and it was a shock to my system. This is after 11 years of embodiment. So I felt um, I was no longer dissociated at all, and I was no longer numb at all. And then here comes this body experience that my poor nervous system freaked out about, just freaked out. There was no, because it was so chronic and so distressing. And it's very humbling. And I think it's a beautiful humbling to see that there is the animal in us, the nervous system in us, that is going to have it's going to have its say. It's going to either want to fight, it's going to want to flee, it's going to want to freeze, it's going to want to, like there's a new word on the um in the um in the psychological world. You want to fawn. I'll make everything good. I'll be good. I'll be good. I'll be good.
Yeah, I
Whatever
heard
it
that
is.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. But the fact of um, more surrender was asked for, and it was a surprise to me. It was just a big surprise that something would be biologically not impacted by the vast openness within which life was happening.
And you
Make
wouldn't have
sense?
known it if you hadn't had the long COVID. It wouldn't have been unearthed. Because it was living there. It wasn't due to the long COVID. The long
No,
COVID unearthed it, right?
exactly.
Well, I read your book and
That's exactly right. It unearthed it.
yeah.
And I said, I don't know, it sounds so crazy to say, like, thank goodness for this. But honestly, it was like there was no way I could have gotten to this level in my body in any other
Yeah.
way. I couldn't have thought of another way other than being
Yeah.
still for 3.5 years in presence. And that meant I could not it never even occurred to me. It wasn't even an option to dissociate or be numb from the misery. And
You
so it's
couldn't run
like,
away from the experience.
I couldn't run away from it. And so I was like, oh, here I am present. Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah. That
so
much
thanks a
presence.
lot.
Ugh.
Thanks a lot. And yet,
That's a lot of microscopic work.
very microscopic, but you know what? Would you trade anything for the safety that you feel in your body, for the being at home in this
Right.
vessel?
Right. 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 Right.
I
Right.
wouldn't. I
Wow.
wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, I
Wow.
wouldn't.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
testament. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Mm, yeah.
It's hard, isn't it, Beth? I mean, when I witness those whom I love, and just people I come across, you know, it's hard to witness the pain body and to
Right.
know what that so much of this ill ease that people are feeling in the moment, and take it as almost like part of their identity, or that there's something wrong with them.
Mm,
Like we misinterpret a lot of this angst and anxiety that the separate self sense has really led to and helped create. And also then the circumstances, the traumatic circumstances, we take a lot of that information of how we feel, the numbness, disassociation, the constant running away from it, and we form, and unfortunately we form an identity around it, that this is who
mhm,
I am. And of
mhm.
course, gives one the very strong message. There's something deeply and profoundly wrong with me. There's got to
Right.
be, because of the way I feel like shit.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
and it's so heartbreaking to know that so much of this, I mean, what could one say, maybe 100%? I don't know how much percent has to do with a dysregulated nervous system from all the things I just mentioned.
Right.
And that's just heartbreaking. Like, wait a minute. And
Right.
behind all that, within it all, lives true nature.
Right.
True nature hasn't gone anywhere. And I know this from my own experience. I wasn't like all the clouds weren't covered over, but it was they were there enough to experience a lot of pain. The pain of separation was definitely acute. And that's
Yeah.
what led me to, be a wonderful little seeker, a very good,
Yeah. Yeah. A good girl.
very well, a very dedicated, nose to
Yeah.
the ground because of
Yeah.
the pain of
Absolutely.
separation. And I could feel also, because I am a body type, I'm a sensing type thing. For me, that was a saving grace in a way because I couldn't
Mm.
avoid the pain of separation and felt it so acutely. And when I started doing yoga, and when someone may be listening, when you do things, when one does things that help relieve the nervous system,
Mm.
body work, craniosacral, dance, earthing, all the stuff that help relieve this nervous system, that
Yeah.
space was made as a result. The cup that was overfull was emptied out a bit. And then true nature that's always there was, you know, like, hello, presence, you
Right.
could call it presence too. And then little more presence, feeling it. Not that there was more presence, but there was the ability to sense it,
And more space.
more space to be it,
Right.
to live it, to experience
Right.
it, because it's an experiential. Oh, our true nature is experiential.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of remarkable. So, I think oftentimes I feel sad for our whole human race.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
yeah. I wanted to just talk a little bit about, is there something you want to say about that before I go to the next topic?
Yeah. Let me just
Yeah.
add one little piece to what you're saying.
Yeah, of course.
You know that heartbreak about watching people
Yeah.
suffer and how hard it is for all of us to go through these kinds of experiences. It feels to me it's important to at least remind ourselves that everything is of God. Oneness is whole. There's nothing excluded. So when we go down the rabbit hole of thinking something is wrong with us, just know it's a rabbit hole that's not real.
Yeah, so how would you like I can come back to my other topic. This is important. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to move on, but and then I realize, wait, I'm in a conversation with someone here.
Don't forget what you were going to say though. Okay.
I won't. Don't
Okay.
worry, it's there. It's bookmarked. Yeah, so that identity piece of something's wrong with me, right?
Yeah.
We create identity around that. And wholeness, I'm just trying to feel into what you just said. And wholeness is okay. Can you explain what you would do? What do you do? Just, so people get a sense of how maybe therapy, a good, yeah, I'm going to say good therapy works. And we're not trying to sell Beth's work, by the way. She's quite busy enough and semi-retired anyway, and just does it still out of love. But what does good therapy do in this case? Like, how does, from a Awaken perspective, right?
Yes.
How does one support that besides
Yeah.
the nervous system? Okay, so we have, they
For
go
sure.
get good nervous system, right? Support.
Yeah.
But what would
Yeah.
the therapy help with? I'd love
Yeah.
to know. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if part of what you're asking has to do with the fact that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think for most of us we see God or awareness, whatever word you want to use, as light. We
as
don't
light.
as light.
Oh,
We don't see it as dark.
yeah. Yeah. And shades of gray.
Shades of gray. And so when something dark happens, either internally in our, something shows up really yucky, or we have something that happens to us, you lose your brother, that's not supposed to happen, is typically the response.
Yeah. And you know what, where I went with it for like 5 minutes, a little longer than 5 minutes. I was mad at God. I was mad. I was mad. And I threw God away for a while. And I said, you know what? But really, I was throwing my ideas and the naivety that was not integrated
Exactly.
into what duality really is, which is all that. But I was like, you guys go take a hike, all these beings I loved. And like, you didn't protect me from this disaster. Thank you.
Exactly.
There were other disasters in that 9 month period. I can't, well, I'll just say it. And we're not going to psychoanalyze me right now. I'm just joking. But no, but I didn't, wasn't, I'm just saying it
Not a
because
chance.
it wasn't the only disaster. So first, the kid's father and I broke up and he left. So he left me with two little children and he was in another state. Okay. Under 5 years old with no money. It's not a good look. I'm sorry. But yeah, we're good friends now. And then
Yeah.
4 months later, my brother dies, right,
Wow.
from a accident. And then 9 months after my brother dies, my dad dies. And I was there with him when he died, and he did not include us in the will at all. So we were
Whoa.
like so without any means of support. This isn't a 9 month, like, no, this isn't a year's period. So we're talking about all the Medusa heads that I had were being chopped off, right? And so, yeah.
Nothing about it looked like it was about love. Nothing about it looked like it would be like this is okay, right?
No, well, but what it did, it was a bit like it was such a stunning, it was so shocking
Yeah,
that resistance. You know how were talking about your surrender?
right.
It propelled me into surrender.
Hmm.
I couldn't resist it. I couldn't even resist it. It propelled me into
Okay.
full faith that something else has got this but at first I had to
Wow.
go through the desert of like, you didn't
Exactly.
protect me, God,
Exactly.
you know? So come back to your God piece. Yeah. You were saying something about
No,
God.
I think you're saying it very clearly. During long COVID, the
Yeah.
words I used is that God, you have forsaken me. Where are you?
Yeah.
What just happened here? And it too, it sounds like a very similar process because again, the fact that I was shocked by how I felt. I was uncomfortable by how I felt, but I didn't run away from how I felt. And I took seriously how I felt because it was true. It was absolutely true. And at the
It was
same time,
true. What was true? That you
that I was miserable, did not feel well, might not
and you
ever
couldn't run.
feel
There
well.
was nowhere to go to save you. Nothing to save
No,
you.
nowhere to me again. It was such a subtlety of a belief system that God was in the light.
Yeah.
Such
Okay. Well, here we go
beliefs.
back to the light. Okay. The light of goodness and nothing. Right. Oh. Oh. And the darkness. Oh. So you couldn't pretend anymore that it wasn't that too.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Got it.
I
Same here.
couldn't, I couldn't
Yeah.
have those blinders had to go. And it deepened love. It deepened trust. It deepened an for a visceral all rightness with whatever is happening. And that is to me immeasurable.
Yeah. I'm just changing the light. Can you see I don't know if you noticed the light is getting brighter. No, maybe not.
Mm,
The sun's coming
no,
through the window. Ah,
yeah,
a visceral and all rightness. Yeah, because your resistance to what was not all right was crumbling.
that's right. And to your point, somewhere along the way, you said something about like it just goes on and on and on. There is no end.
Yeah.
And so that's the felt experience of um, the all rightness, no matter what.
Yeah, and that's well, it's so hard though, Beth. It's so tough. It's so tough being that open all the time. You know, when you were saying, there's nowhere to escape. It's like the light is shown in the darkness, and the darkness itself is not dark anymore. It's shining its own wisdom, you know? And you
It
can't hide
is.
it from it anymore. You can't run away. But then it opens up what we were talking about earlier about compassion and all this stuff. And you know that Zen Master Dogen quote that, uh, he said, enlightenment is an intimacy with the 10,000 things,
Yes,
which
exactly.
which means everything. And and
Exactly.
and we're not talking about enlightenment, folks. We're just talking about it's the light, enlightenment is an intimacy with the 10,000 things, with all things, including the things we've relegated into dark, and these polarities of light and dark. And that line erases. You have a piece of paper, and one side is light, what the things you love and you want, and what you say yes to, and the things that you don't love and don't want and say no to on the other side. Take that line and erase it, and then you get this piece of paper and it's all one thing.
You go, wow.
But then you go wow, and you're going ow, because then the awareness is going into all these places that it's like that's why we were leaning over into the light, leaning
Absolutely.
over into even the very intelligent dissociation and numbness that you were speaking about, that was protecting in a way all the things, the spirituality that was all about the beauty and grace, but not this stuff, not,
Right.
but
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And what do you mean when you started this and you said it's so hard? What do you mean? What are you
Oh,
saying when you say
it's what
so
I
hard?
mean is that it's hard. Well, I think it's just about constant growth.
Yeah.
It's constant growth
Y-
and growing into like this yes of how included it really all is, and it just goes into
mhm.
the crevices, into the little corners of all of the psyche and the body, and then of our own denial, as and what we push away within humanity, and what is hard to say yes to, what is just hard to say yes to. That's what's hard. You know, it's hard. It's hard to say yes to the suffering that exists. It's
Exactly.
hard to be like awake there. Yes to
Yeah.
me is awake in this case. Like
Yeah.
awake there means conscious, shining
Yes.
a light there. Ow.
Absolutely. Ow. And the yes is also to the ow. I mean, that's the other thing that seems so important is like there's nothing in this about saying no to how you feel about it in the moment.
That's right. Yes is to the ow.
It
That's
is.
compassion again. The compassion
It
arises. Ah,
like, I don't want this.
it
I don't
hurts. It
want
hurts to
this.
Right, but it hurts to not, you can't not, yeah, I mean, but that's what I mean. It continues. The growth,
Yeah.
never stops, because it's like, it's creeping along like mycelium, on the ground,
Yeah.
underground. It's just
Yeah.
creeping along, surrounding
Yes.
everything.
Yes. Saying this too, this too,
So,
this too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe my new spiritual word is ow, ouch.
Big ouch. Look at the world right now. How can we not say, ouch?
I know. I know. You know, it's yeah, but it's even that has its gloriousness, doesn't it? It's it to keep growing and letting ourselves be penetrated and penetrate
Right.
reality and
Yep.
is it's
Yep.
glorious on some level. And oh, yeah, at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I just one thing though, that little segue I was going to go, and then we can see if we how far we want to go with it. Is I wanted to talk a little bit about generational pain.
Uh-huh.
To bring some to just for us to, not that it's not out there, but something I recently learned, and you probably already know this, but given your work and everything, but I recently learned, how something's out there, you just don't know it, that that trauma is passed through the umbilical
Mm,
cord from
mm,
the mother during gestation when we're in the womb. And so parts of our generational traumas are being filtered in, like what experiences my mother had, for instance, that were traumatic, that are alive in her in some way, or even asleep in her, like the numbness,
mm.
it could be hidden. And then her mother, and then her mother's mother, and maybe father, I'm thinking matriarchal lineage, but of course there's both sides have come through the umbilical cord, and lineage wise, and it's that's just something I wanted to bring up, besides collective trauma, that there is a real thing to generational trauma. And I
Yeah.
recently, Beth, had a healing session with someone because I wanted to do a little work about my mother and this little piece that I had with her, where I was a little bit like my nervous system was too much on high alert and distress about her well-being.
Mm,
And she lives in another country now, but it was still kind of in the background, my distress for her well-being. And yes, she's getting older, and yes, there's some concern. And I did it. I worked with this person in a healing session, and I loved the session because it wasn't passive. She wasn't doing a healing session on me.
mm,
It was a very engaged process where I had to feel into things. I loved that. So I was engaged, and I won't say it because it has something to do with my mother. I don't want to break confidence, but what came up is a piece of what happened to her, before I was
mm,
born.
mm.
That was a very painful wound, a big, big betrayal.
Ooh,
And that as a result, there was something living in me that had been carrying this concern for her well-being my whole life.
wow.
And just it really changed as she got older. Of course, the bar got raised about me caring about her well-being because she's getting older and needs maybe some more support here and there. But then I worked with it, and guess what? Healing is real.
Isn't it
Oh my
something?
goodness.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, I still obviously care and adore and love her and want the best for her, but like something got unplugged, like almost like a healthy cord cutting, a healthy
Yeah.
one. Not,
Wow.
and nothing because of what she did. It was none of her fault. It was just like, this was just something was carried generationally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
God, isn't that exquisite? I mean, it's painful, but isn't that just how
Oh my
healing
gosh.
how
I
healing does
know.
work?
Like these, like, wow, like aha, aha, like these big aha, wow. I cannot believe that. Like
Yeah.
almost like a no-brainer. Well, of course.
No, but when it's visceral or when it's embodied, it's night and day. It's not something
Yeah,
you're conceptually thinking about. It's like this is
right.
this is wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how would you not, as a child, have just absorbed the atmosphere?
Absolutely. And as a child, let's play with the light. As a child, and also just in the womb of, like they say, it's passed through the amniotic fluid.
Right.
It's like the
Wow.
the the maybe I don't know where it lives. Isn't that odd? That
Hmm.
traumas can be passed through. There's
Yeah.
a signature of it, and
Yeah.
it can switch on. Actually, they say certain DNA pieces. It can switch on some pieces that are create more of an anxious type person. It can switch on different kinds of diseases, that one could be
Wow.
susceptible to as a result. Yeah.
Wow. How wonderful you did that.
Yeah.
How
Thank you.
wonderful
Yeah.
you did that for yourself and for life and for your
Yeah.
mother.
It's it's freeing. I
Yeah.
think we're meant to be as free as possible here.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, yeah.
And I'm probably saying something everybody knows, but there is that feeling of like, it's going to stop with me. All that generational stuff that's just been coming through from
Yeah.
generation to the next generation is like, no, let's have it stop right here.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? They say that when we do healing, like you've heard that saying, it affects 7 generations before us and after us. Whether that's true or not, I like it. And
Exactly.
when I said earlier, it switches on certain genetic codes, that's something one should do some research on and look at. But that's,
Mm.
there is something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did we kind of touch on stuff we want to touch on?
Think so.
Because there's
I,
probably going to be oh, we could have talked about, yeah, this, we could have talked about that. Is there something that well, I do know how I'd like to close. I would like to talk about a little bit of what are some of the things that one can do that are out there that can really help a traumatized,
mm,
dysregulated nervous system. What are
yeah.
some of the things that you recommend? And if you miss something that I know of, I'll chime in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you covered quite a few with the cranial sacral work
Yeah.
and the grounding, and I forget I think you mentioned a few other things. Um, I have to say one of the things that has helped me enormously is called trauma release exercise, based on, how you know this because you have a dog. When animals are cornered and then as prey or some kind of a potential assault. And when the time is over and they're still
Yeah.
alive, if they're still alive, the first thing that they do is just shake it off. Just
Yeah.
shake it off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I actually went through and learned there's classes that teach you how to do it. And they've been working
Yeah.
with a lot of PTSD in soldiers who come back from wars
Oh.
with
Oh.
tremendous success. And it has been a godsend for me, just a godsend because
Yeah.
it does shake it off and it's just sort of gets it out of the system because
Nice. It's
the
called
system,
TRE, right? People call it TRE. There's
exactly.
videos on it, right? On YouTube of how to
Yes.
do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, good. There's some people who make comments in some of my videos and they're TRE
Okay.
practitioners. So they
Oh,
exist.
excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent. Are
they
they local?
exist. I have no idea. I'm just saying that I know that it's actually something that exists
Yeah.
that people, yeah, but you can do it on your own, is what you're
I
saying.
once I was trained, I do it on my own. My body is so accustomed to it.
Nice. Well, I'm going
Yeah.
to talk to you more about that personally.
Yeah.
It makes
Very
total
big help.
sense. I would love to have that in my toolbox of sharing with people. Just, like for them to do their own research, but that exists. So
Exactly.
something to look at. What about EMDR?
I have no personal experience with it, and I have not heard a whole lot about how it might impact the nervous system or how it might not. I know it
Here.
works a lot with trauma, and I know that it supposedly is healing the trauma, but I'm distinguishing the trauma from the nervous system only for this conversation, teasing it apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did some EMDR following my car accident, where
Oh,
I had
okay.
a giant car accident and broke a lot of bones and all that surgery. And I did some EMDR around the accident and post accident and all that. And it was very helpful. And the practitioner had these things that buzzed, and they would buzz in your hand and and what it is like EMDR is just crossing the midline. Like another EMDR technique is called the butterfly, and you do
Mm,
it at a pace that works for oneself. When one feels overwhelmed, you can do that on yourself, is the butterfly. And it's crossing the midline, and it does something to the body, nervous system, mind, and it makes one be able to process and integrate the overwhelm that one is experiencing.
wonderful.
So that's what EMDR does, and other people do it with the eyes, the rapid eyes. And mine was more of a buzzing thing, and this is more for oneself at home.
Makes sense.
It really is nice. And have you heard of havening?
No.
Havening. It's like something to look up as well. It's like this thing where
Mm,
you stroke the outside of your arms and the outside of your legs, and it helps you remember where you live, like feeling safe in your skin, being home here. But it reminds the body it's here. I'm here.
lovely.
I'm here.
Wow.
So anything that helps one remember one is here
And that
in the body.
we can do for ourselves.
Yeah. And yoga, like I said earlier, and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you. And therapy. And therapy
Yes.
that is good therapy that has a
Yes.
somatic component to it, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Yep.
Where, it's
Yep.
tied into the body, how you feel and how yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We put a lot in to this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for you to be joining this conversation, Beth, for everyone to have some of your wisdom here.
Thank you for inviting me. And I love having these kinds of conversations with you. I love it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And we wish everyone well. I know I can
Yeah.
speak for Beth too.
Yes, please.
And that you find more ease in your skin, in your
Mm,
body, to be here, and loving kindness towards oneself. And that makes one have more loving kindness towards all others, and maybe building bit by bit, person by person, a more regulated and joyful world.
may it be so.
Yes, maybe so.